Would you believe me if I told you superheroes aren't perfect? Yes, I know Batman with prep time. Can he be Goku though? One of the places I think authors and the characters they write fumble in the most is, funnily enough, with an emotion we all experience: love. Hey guys, back in the land before time, 2024, I actually uploaded a video where I talked about some of my least favorite relationships in Marvel and DC Comics. And unlike some of my videos, I actually feel like that video has aged pretty well. With that video being almost a year old now, in hindsight, I kind of realized that title is a little bit clickbaity. I never actually talk about what the issue is with these comic book relationships. That video is more or less an indictment on those specific toxic couples. And so I thought it'd be kind of funny if I made part 2 what part 1 should have been the first time, if that makes sense. So I asked the comment section for some recommendations, and this go around, I don't just want to talk about the bad relationships, I want to talk about the most toxic relationships and why they're actually bad. So before we get too brazy, if at any point in time you like this video, then probably means you should like this video. And if you like this video, then that means you'll probably enjoy this video. And if you like that many of my videos at that point, you're just procrastinating subscribing at this point. Just press the button, all right? Also, for the first time ever, I actually have an upload schedule, so that means that you won't be like the first 3,000 who, realistically speaking, probably don't remember that I even exist. I don't even remember subscribing.
Shut the f up! Shut the f up! Shut up!
And if this video gets like 1,000 likes, maybe, I'll consider making a part 3. Except that one would most likely involve fandom ships. If I'm honest with you guys, I'm just looking for an excuse to talk about My Hero again. Not every friendship has to end with tongue, guys. I'm sorry. It actually makes me kind of upset. The dude told him to kill himself, bro. Do you have any idea how toxic that relationship is? You sound like an idiot. I don't really know where to start with this ship because it's not really even a ship more than a felony case. I think Tara Markov has got to be one of the worst handled characters in DC's entire lineup. I'm not opposed to exploring the trauma of heroes being victimized. However, am I the only person who feels like 9 times out of 10 these stories are usually written by people who just don't really get it? It's kind of obvious to me when certain plot lines are written by people who just have no idea what the actual real world repercussions are of serious things like this. Hal Jordan dates a minor and it's glamorous. Yeah, I'm sure all of those mental health issues are completely on her. We'll just go ahead and sweep that one under the rug. Except Hal isn't even the only groomer DC even has. If you grew up with the 2000s Teen Titans show like I did, you would know that Slade is the main villain of the Teen Titans. You would also know that Tara Markov is a girl who can control rocks with her mind. She ends up joining the Teen Titans for a little bit, but unbeknownst to the team at the time, she's actually a double spy working for Slade. Well, did you know that in the original run, Tara and Slade actually have a romantic relationship? That might not sound like an issue on paper. However, Tara is 15 years old and Slade looks like this. Tara and Slade's relationship to me has the same issue that I kind of talked about earlier. Admittedly, I think it makes a lot more sense for a character like Slade to do something so evil because he is an evil man, as opposed to Green Lantern, who's literally a member of the freaking Justice League. He's a self-aggrandizing villain with a god complex. He does evil things because he's an evil person. And the other one is Deathstroke. I kid. And I was actually talking with a few of my friends about this, and they actually thought that this ship was something that came about more recently, but no, this has actually been a part of the Judas contract since it was first published decades ago. But did you know that in the original run, Tara was actually heavily implied to be an equal manipulator for Slade? In the original story, they kind of have this slight implication that Tara is also somewhat manipulating Slade because, to quote Slade, she's sociopathic, which I feel like I really shouldn't have to explain, but like, that makes it worse. See guys, she's a bad girl, she smokes cigarettes. Isn't it wild how the modern equivalents of this would be like Tara just hitting a vape? Side note, I am so glad our media evolves with the time because like, look at Robin's outfit, bro. Bro does one jumping jack and Slade is not the only one going to jail today. I have to become someone, an adult, whoever Dick Grayson decides to be. Woo, take it all off. Thanks, Tara, but I'm only stripping away my identity, not my clothes. This isn't cable TV. I don't really like The Boys. It insists upon itself. But my favorite scene from that whole show is when all of the girls come together at the end of season 2 to just dog walk Stormfront. It felt way too cathartic seeing someone who was so incredibly evil finally just get even a fraction of the pain that they put onto other people put back onto them. My biggest issue with the Tara-Slade relationship isn't so much that it happened, it's the fact that it feels like Slade doesn't get a big enough consequence. It's my same issue with Talia drugging Bruce to conceive Damian. It just feels like there hasn't been an equivalent punishment befitting the crime. And that's kind of where I drew the Green Lantern parallel earlier. It feels like they just introduce this relationship and decide to sweep it under the rug rather than actually have a meaningful discussion or consequences to the perpetrator for this crime. With that being said though, Judas Contract is actually still one of my favorite comics of all time, specifically because of the conflict that's presented here. It was and still is a surprisingly deep story about childhood trauma and manipulation. It just hasn't really aged the best according to my modern sensibilities. Now this I would have paid $5 for. Better than a Chevy Chase movie anytime. I saw this excerpt from the Other History of the DC Universe 3 while doing research for this video, and I feel like it summarizes the whole situation pretty well. At the very least, there is the win that Tara Markov does end up killing him. I'm glad the character is getting a new chance to stand on her own. You know guys, I have to confess something. I don't think the comics are perfect. Everyone's always like, why don't they just stick to the comics? The source material would make it 100% better. Can you shut up? I think of live action adaptations kind of like a mixed bag. Sometimes you get something that's objectively worse. Sometimes you get something that's objectively better. And sometimes you just get something that stands shoulder to shoulder. And sometimes I think we hold things on a higher pedestal than it actually is, rather than the actual quality of the writing itself. Sword Art Online has one of the best concepts of anything ever, but are we ready to admit that the entirety of season 1 is just a harem anime with extra steps? I bring that up because y'all know Logan? It's literally the best Wolverine movie there is, isn't it? It was this perfect send-off to Hugh Jackman and the character Wolverine and that entire extended universe of the X-Men movies that they made. Well, did you know the main villain of the comic it's based off of is actually an incestuous, cannibalistic Hulk who has hillbilly kids with Shehulk? To my mom and any other middle-aged women who might be watching this and don't really understand what the big issue with that relationship is, I have 2 words to explain it. They're cousins. I don't know what's up with Marvel writers in the 2000s and incest, but like, can you stop? Marvel is to incest what DC is to grooming, I found out. Wolverine's all-time greatest adventure starts here. Oh, does it now? This takes place in a world where Wolverine, manipulated by Mysterio, ends up unaliving the X-Men. He goes off into captivity. Meanwhile, the Hulk goes crazy and becomes just about the worst villain he could. And for some reason, because he's evil now, he decides he wants Hulk kids. So the only person who could facilitate that, I guess, was his cousin. Their inbred kids and eventually grandkids end up becoming the Hulk gang and also Wolverine's landlords. I have like an honest question, and I really hope you don't judge me for this. Does anyone actually enjoy shock content? I'm like actually not trying to be funny. I'm genuinely wondering because like, I don't actually get it. Mom, come look. She-Hulk's breastfeeding. I feel like anything I say after this point would just be a rehash of my issues with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver from video 1. So if you want to really hear how I feel about this relationship, probably just watch the part 1 to this video. But suffice it to say, this is not a relationship that I ever want to see again. Which, okay, not every relationship is going to sit right with me. That's where the joy of the diversity of opinion comes in. At least I got Old Man Sonic out of it, alright?
Nice son you got there. Be a shame if he got impregnated.
There ain't no need for threats.
But you know it's a weird Marvel ship regarding relatives that I know that you've already heard about? Okay, this one is a little different because I'm not actually taking this one from the comics, but can we talk about how weird it is that Captain America makes out with his niece? Okay, it wasn't actually his niece yet, kinda sorta technically. And he didn't know it would be his niece someday, kinda sorta technically. But you know who did know? The writers. Was Peggy dead? Yes. Was Steve's life completely different? Yes. Is it still weird that out of the billions of women on the planet, the only one that Steve can decide to date is the one who's literally his first girlfriend's niece? Yes. I don't care what nobody says, this decision will always be weird to me, especially because it doesn't go anywhere. I was actually discussing this ship with my mom the other day and she barely even remembered it. One thing I have to admit about the decision though is actually the symbolism behind the choice. I get them wanting to illustrate the fact that Steve loves Peggy so much that even beyond the generations, he can only be attracted to someone who is pretty similar to her. In a way, it actually really sets up his decision in Endgame to go back in time and to live the life that he never got a chance to. With that being said though, I just can't help but feel like it could have been handled just so much better. For instance, in a perfect world where they knew how they were going to conclude Steve Rogers' arc, I would have everything play out exactly the way it does up until Civil War. The only difference is that during Civil War, after Peggy Carter's funeral and they all drive away and Sharon pulls them aside and they have the conversation, I think it would fit his character a lot better if they get to that same exact point. The only difference now is that Steve just doesn't reciprocate the kiss. Whether that be her kissing him and him showing a little bit of hesitance, or even him just outright declining the kiss altogether. It makes sense to me to think that he just wouldn't be able to reciprocate those emotions. He would realize that he's kind of rebounding Sharon for Peggy. I feel like it would show his inability to let go of the past and live in this brave new world. I think that would characterize him a lot better in a movie where I feel like Cap kind of gets the short end in terms of development. I mean, like, it's Captain America Civil War, but let's be real, it's Avengers 3. Plus, this kiss is like the last time Sharon is even mentioned in the franchise until like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They just put her in the vault with Shang-Chi and Moon Knight, and like also Spider-Man now. I'm just now kind of realizing I lost the plot a little bit. It's kind of like Luke and Leia kissing in episode 4 of Star Wars. It's like a lot weirder in hindsight, knowing that she kissed him even though she was privy to the fact that they were brother and sister at the time. How does Cap even show up to family reunions in his timeline where he lived his life with Peggy? Does that just not slip? Does that never come up in conversation? You don't feel a little bit embarrassed? I just can't think about this ship without thinking of that one skit from the Warp Zone.
Uncle Steve, meet your new grandniece, Sharon Carter. Oh, look at her. She's so cute. Couldn't you just kiss her?
The problem with this ship is it follows a trend that is all too common in media called the protagonist has to be in a sexy relationship at all costs. I'm sure there's a more compact way of saying that. I just don't care to do the research. Half of my job on this channel is going to tvtropes.com, and I just don't feel like doing that today. I said I was going to upload more consistent. I didn't say it was going to be good. And while not every piece of media follows this trope, I feel like every superhero story does. And there's probably some commentary to be made there. I'm just not going to make it today. My analytics can't take another hit. Okay, this one might be cheating, but like, I can't help myself. Y'all remember when DC pitched like a high school comedy drama called Gotham High? I feel like what the Batfamily really needs is its own Jersey Shore. It sounds like I'm joking, but like, hear me out for a second. They get in public fights in the community all the time. They get in private fights in the community all the time. They're always having run-ins with the law. All of their relationships are as complicated as the freaking BGCSEs. And let's be real, they pass the women around like a blunt. There's literally like no one of them I could choose for this list. Realistically speaking, I could probably fill like 7 of these videos on just the Batfamily alone. So I'll choose something tame. For as much as I love the Arkham series, it kind of pains me that they paired Tim and Barbara instead of Barbara and Dick. On paper, I get it. They're the smartest members of the Batfamily. They both feel a bit underappreciated because of their circumstances and the roles they play. There's just nothing toxic about their relationship though. But I do know that a lot of people don't really like this ship, so I thought it was worth mentioning it. If I'm being completely honest with y'all, I kind of like it. It's one of the few times where I feel like either of these characters has an objectively healthy relationship, and the DLC packs show that relationship even better. And that's the Batfamily of this video, guys. All right, let's pack it up. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend. Psych! Have y'all ever played a Telltale game before? Like The Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us, Tales from the Borderlands? Well, did you know that they made one for Batman? I've actually been super tempted to make a video on it for a while now because it's literally one of my favorite Batman stories of all time. But the reason I bring it up is because Batman and Catwoman date. That is actually not an issue, obviously. Batman and Catwoman to me are like Lois Lane and Superman. I hate it when they're not together. But in this world, when Bruce meets Selina, she's already dating Harvey Dent. And Bruce and Harvey are really good friends. So you know what Bruce does when he gets a minute alone with his friend's girlfriend? Oh yeah, that's right, buddy. They fight crime! Now, griminess aside, which this is very grimy, I know their relationship was complicated. But like, you could at least waited until the schizophrenia like took over or something, bro. Like, let's be real. You don't do that to your friends. Not with Catwoman. Now Wonder Woman though, let that have been Marvel rival Squirrel Girl. I said it. This one is a little bit more excusable because you literally play as Batman in this, so like you can just choose not to do it, but like, you got me. Yeah, I did it, and I do it again. Okay. An actual toxic Batfamily ship. I can't talk about Nightwing yet. I kind of want to save him for another video, a more somber toned video. If you know, you know. But did you know when I said that everyone in the Batfamily has been with each of the women at one point? I kind of wasn't kidding. I mean, like, I didn't look it up, but I'm at least like 80% sure that Batgirl has been with every single member of the Batfamily at this point. So I want you to guess who this next segment is going to be talking about. Go ahead. The comment section's open. Time's up. Last video I talked about Bruce betraying his son's trust to get with his girl. What if I told you though that was behavior learnt from home? I am not kidding. Did you know that Alfred once tried to date Catwoman? Bet you weren't expecting that. So this is actually like old as free. This is literally from Batman issue number 22. And I mean like Batman, super old fart Batman. I see you, Alfred. during Pride Month no less. To put into perspective how old this is, look at Catwoman, dog. This book was published in April of 1944. The plot around this book revolves around Bruce and Robin getting really pissy because Alfred's cooking has just been cheeks recently. As it turns out, the reason for this was that Alfred was sneaking out during the day to court the apple of his eye, a woman named Belinda. The issue with this though is that Belinda is secretly the Catwoman. Belinda tells him that she's actually dating other butlers at the same time. And just like, how could she do that, bro? Look how happy she's making my boy. Got him all gingerly. Side note, I've like already made a joke about this. This has got to be the gayest comic book cover I've seen in my life. And during Pride Month, no less. Alfred, realizing he's losing to other butlers, decides the best way to win over Belinda is to tell her that he is the butler to the Batman. When Alfred realizes he can't just tell Bruce to pull up for the boom boom, he decides to steal one of his suits and visit her himself, pretending to be the Batman. Bugatti? I thought Alfred drove a beat-up Corolla. Around this time, Bruce and Robin find some poetry Alfred was writing for her, where he's just like, yeah, like, you're not beating the allegations, bro. I'm afraid I'll have to lay down the law to Alfred. After all, there can't be any real reason for his queer behavior. Now see, that's what I'm saying. In an attempt to save Alfred, Bruce and Dick go to the ball to confront Catwoman and end up getting locked up in the fridge. They make their way out, and as Catwoman runs away, Alfred catches her still dressed up as Batman. Well, what an excellent opportunity to pay off a little debt from my good friend Alfred. A little spanking will do the trick. And believe me, it will hurt you more than it will hurt me. Okay, this one is obviously not a ship per se, but I feel like all of my videos recently have just been so negative that when I found out that Alfred almost got Batman and Robin killed so he could get with Catwoman, how could I not share that, all right? And so now we suffer together. That's why you're subscribed, right? To suffer. You are subscribed, right? If there's one thing this video is reminding me of, it's just how fun comics can be when they're in the right hands. A part of me is actually really grateful for these garbage ships because whenever an amazing one comes around, it just gives me that much more to look forward to. This wasn't me saying that I hate any of these stories. Actually, it's kind of the opposite for most of them. Nevertheless, I'm really glad that you stuck around till the end. Like I said, I'm going to be uploading a lot more consistently, so please stick around for that. Please like the video, it really helps me out in the algorithm. And honestly, subscribe. You'll probably enjoy what I post next. I usually try to end these videos on like a joke. Oh, sorry.